Todd.
Hi, Angela. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
No, I'm glad you're here. So I want to dive into arts management, arts entrepreneurship. Um, so as you know, I've recently started a podcast, Arts Redefined, and really think that what you're doing, I should say you're at Miami University, Miami of Ohio, and really want to talk about this. It's a fairly new concept, yes, arts management degree, arts entrepreneurship, which I think fits into kind of this whole redefining the arts. So can you tell me
Yeah,
a
so
little bit about your program and your background?
so my background really is 25 years in arts and entrepreneurship. I've been a freelance theater designer. I've been a partner in a creative services firm. I've run a wine import business. So I've always been connected with arts and entrepreneurship. And an opportunity 9 years ago came about to come to Miami of Ohio to build a program. And so I took a fledgling minor and created new classes, created a co-major with more new classes. And then about 2.5 years ago, we launched a full major in arts management and arts entrepreneurship. While arts management is not new, I mean, Shakespeare, I think, is a great example of an arts entrepreneur. And Mozart's father was an incredible arts manager, arts entrepreneur. But as far as being taught at university level, it is relatively new. And it started really in graduate programs across the country. And there are a few and more undergraduate programs. I think ours is different because we do a couple of things. We combine arts management, arts entrepreneurship, and a lot of times those are just viewed separately. We really think about everything we teach fits under the concept of management. So entrepreneurship's a function of management, leadership's a function of management. That's sort of our view on it. And a lot of places will just not have an entrepreneurial piece in their program, or if they teach arts entrepreneurship as a minor, there might not really be arts management. Another thing that differentiates us is we have a very close relationship with our business school, which I find across the country isn't always the case. And our business school is highly rated. Miami also has a tradition of strong liberal arts, and I think that's a differentiator for us. And finally, I think our size as a mid-sized school, we have theater, art, music, emerging tech and business and design, art and architecture and interior design. And we work very closely together. The chairs meet every other week together with the dean. And what that means is I know what's happening in architecture, and architecture knows what's happening in theater. And it makes for a collaborative environment. I know from other larger schools that sometimes your school of music's over to the left and your school of art's over to the right. And there's not maybe as much collaboration. So I think those components make for a very unique program.
So why is that collaboration important? If you're going to school to major in music, why is it important for the departments or the different program directors to know what the other's doing?
Yeah, so boy, that question is a whole podcast.
Yes.
But I think what I would say, so myself and a colleague, Willie Caldwell, about in 2000, did a research project over the summer where we flew around the country and interviewed alums of Miami University's College of Creative Arts. And we had a hypothesis that the future of training students in the arts, meaning the traditional arts disciplines, should be three different things. One is your artistic practice, so theater, music, studio art. One is foundational skills in arts business or arts management. And then the third is innovation and entrepreneurship. And what we found from that work was, yes, in fact, from all the questions, all the interviews, all the discussions, and even since then, talking to our CCA advisory board, the feedback has been, hey, I need these skills and I didn't get them in my art degree or my music degree or my theater degree or my architecture degree. And so that is what we focus on here in our program. And that's why it's so important to be connected with the artistic disciplines. We're trying to lead, as arts managers do. We're trying to lead the artistic disciplines. We're trying to move their curriculum, which in some cases is the same in many ways as it was 20 years ago, into the 21st century. In fact, a report came out recently from SNAP, Strategic National Arts Alumni Project, and this is a group that looks at research of alumni that graduate from different arts programs to the U.S. It's a pretty big data set, right? And so the report that came out, I think it came out about 2 weeks ago, points to something that our program tries to address, and that is this idea of skills gap. So they ask questions about what did you learn in your undergraduate program, and what do you need in your job? And I think, just to sum up the findings that really relate to our conversation today, they found that students or alums of programs were very happy with what they learned in their artistic practice. What they found also is that students feel like there's a pretty big skills gap in what they learned about business and entrepreneurship. And so what we're doing here is trying to fill that gap. Filling that gap means that we have to work closely with the other disciplines, try to help them change so that students who graduate from Miami, when they answer the survey 5 years down the road, maybe we see that line move a bit.
So, I'm sure there are some traditionalists out there that still feel that it's arts for art's sake. I say the arts need to come out of the closet when it comes to that, because we need to move past that. And, in the saying that business has no business in art school or an arts department. What do you say to that? Especially given the feedback that you're getting from alum, if you want to major in music, shouldn't you just be focusing 100% on honing your craft?
There are students, I think, in the world who should spend 100% of their time focused on playing the cello. That is a small subsection of students who study music. Now, we have a really good placement rate, like 100% for music educators. So, I think when you talk about, the education in the arts, you have to really look at it sort of on a micro level. But going back to, shouldn't they just study music? Well, there are not a lot of opportunities to play the cello, right? There's only a certain number of seats in symphonies or pit bands on Broadway where students can make a living playing the cello. Most artists have a portfolio career, so that maybe they play in a symphony, maybe they teach, maybe they play in a pit. If we're talking about musicians, maybe they play weddings. There's all kinds of things you can do. Well, if you have a portfolio career, you have to manage it, right? It's not like it just happens. There's that business aspect to it. Even if you are Yo-Yo Ma, for instance, pretty famous musician, he, I'm sure, has managers that help him, but he's a brand, right? He has to manage his brand. And I would guess that he has a lot to say about that. And he probably didn't take business courses. I don't know. But it's certainly helpful for anyone in the arts to understand the world that they're going to work in, and some of the basic that will help them either manage your own career or work in an arts organization. There are a lot of opportunities that students coming into university don't even know exist. We teach them develop, which is raising money in the arts. Have a number of students that have gone into that field that came in thinking, I'm going to play the trumpet, or I'm going to be a vocalist. And maybe they could have done that. I don't know, but they found this other skill set, and now they get to work in the arts, but in a different tech. But they're still connected with the arts. So I guess the short answer, I just did the longer answer, but the short answer is most students graduating from Miami aren't going to go play the cello as a profession, or be a painter as a profession, or be an actor as a profession. So I'm not trying to keep them from doing that. In fact, in our program, we require a certain number of credits in the arts because you need that artistic discipline. But I'm saying, let's open up opportunities for students. Let's not pigeonhole them into an education system that says you're doing a vertical. You're coming here and you're going to come out here. What we're trying to do is create these horizontal students that have multiple skill sets. We also know that many students, it's a high percentage, I don't know, maybe 60, 70%, 5 years out aren't working in their major anyway. We know that. There's research on that. So we really focus on transferable skills of creativity, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, which works anywhere, right?
Yeah. So then my thought goes to, well, then why don't you just ship them over to the business school and have them get a business degree?
Yes, text math, I think, is part of the answer to that question. Business school, and I said I have an MBA, so I have experience in a business school, and I understand the curriculum, I understand the classes they're taking. Business schools in general, and I think ours specifically, is teaching students to work in corporate America. Great opportunities, right? To go work for P&G or go work for Centos. Great opportunities. Well, the arts don't work like corporate America. The arts work different. Some are for profit, some are not for profit. So we have to teach students that, right? There are similarities but differences. A not-for-profit board works different than a for-profit board. Students need to understand that. Also, I think what we're selling at the end of the day is just different. If you're working for P&G, you're selling products. In some cases, you might work for a company that sells services. I think the arts sells experiences. So if I go see a play or symphony, I'm buying a ticket for a couple hours to sit in a room and have music played by maestros, experts, play a symphony, and I'm taking that in and having an experience. If I buy a painting and put on my wall, I'm going to look at it over and over again, and I'm having an experience. I'm connecting with that work of art. And so how you market that is different. How you sell that is different. How you fund it is different. So I think it's all about context. I will say students do need to go over to Farmer School of Business and take some classes. And in our major, again, just like having arts expertise, we have to have some business expertise. But then there's this other big piece that's the simple way of describing it is arts business, but it's business from an arts context. So all our projects are done around the arts versus, I don't know, a product, for instance. Our client projects are with arts organizations. So I think context really matters.
Yeah, I spoke, I don't know, a year or so ago to a liberal arts college president who said that now it's major in job titles and not a degree, like a well-rounded degree, which made me your comment about business schools prepare individuals to go work for corporations and it's not the same, which then makes me think of the word entrepreneur. Again, people have asked me, what does an art entrepreneur mean? And doesn't the word entrepreneur belong to business?
No. The answer to that question is no, they don't own entrepreneurship. And, we have a fantastic entrepreneurship department in our business school, and I collaborate with it. And we have a similar philosophy about entrepreneurship. It's not just about starting a business. It's really about a way of thinking about the world. I have self-efficacy. I have the ability to be a creative problem solver. I have the ability to make something out of the means I have at hand. I'm not stopped by a policy. I'm not stopped by the way things have been done for 50 years. I innovate. I come up with new ways of solving sometimes new problems, but sometimes old problems. So you can be, and when you say arts, when you put arts with that, it just means the context you're working in is the arts. So, you can be I think about it in three different ways. You can be an entrepreneur, you can start your own sort of like I call it personal entrepreneurship. So that's someone who's a freelancer and they work for themselves and they have that entrepreneurial mindset to allow them to not be stopped by all the barriers that they're going to hit. They know about fear of failure. They know about fear of first step, all these creative confidence things we teach students. So that's personal entrepreneurship. Then there's a person like me, which is an entrepreneur in a sort of bureaucratic organization. So creating the major I created is arts entrepreneurship. Creating new classes that I'm creating are arts entrepreneurship. Then there's a more traditional way of thinking about it, which is starting a thing like a venture. And so maybe you start a theater company, and that's being an arts entrepreneur. But I think at the root, what we're doing here at Miami is trying to teach us a way of thinking about solving problems creatively. I think that's really the root of entrepreneurial thinking.
Yeah, and that's getting back to my passion about redefining the arts, in that so much we hear of STEM, for the last 20,
Yeah.
25 years, right? And not too long ago, there was someone who works for a international research company that also has partnered with a university to form a STEM high school, or I'm sorry, yeah, STEM high school that they formed 20 years ago. But they realized after being in the STEM school business for that long, that if you put a student in front of a computer and teach them coding, all they learn is coding.
Yeah.
So it's this transactional, one-dimensional. So they don't refer to STEM as science, technology, engineering, and math. They now refer to STEM as strategies to engage minds.
Yeah.
Which to me is fascinating and hits exactly what we're talking about, which I think when you look up in the dictionary the definition of an entrepreneur, that at the very heart is what an artist, or I say a creative, is.
Yeah.
I don't even like to call artists, because again, this connotation that it's frivolous, it's a hobby, it's something not serious. So I think of them as creatives and part of a creative workforce. But that, in essence, are what creatives do every day. They get up every day and they are curious. They're constantly thinking of ways to solve what they learn can be applied to multiple industries. So I kind of want to touch back on when you were saying that studies have shown that 5 years out, people aren't working in their major. If I was a prospective parent of a Miami student, what would you say to me regarding the importance of my child loves theater? If you're saying that chances are 5 years out, they're not going to be working in that, what are the benefits then of them going through that?
Yeah, I think the benefits of the arts are that they train you in transferable skills. I don't know who said 5 or 7 years ago now, the MFA is the new MBA. It's true. I mean, the arts train us in creative thinking, creative problem solving. We start with, think of a studio artist. They start with a blank canvas, talk about being entrepreneurial, and then filling that canvas with something that asks the viewer to question themselves, to question the world. It's incredible. Collaboration. I mean, going back to your theater example, if you want to learn how to be a collaborator, work on a number of theater productions. We just closed a show here at our theater department, and the cast and the crew all came out because we had a guest come in who was doing critique of the show. And while my background is theater and I know this, it was very powerful to see, I don't know, maybe 10 performers and 30 people that worked behind the stage. And that didn't include marketing. That didn't include house management. That was just the people that worked back behind the stage. And you think about how many people it takes to work on a theater production. I mean, it's a workforce. And what those students learn in that process is it takes all of us. We all have a part in this, right? And so learning about collaboration is so important. You get a script And you have to break that down. So if you're a designer or an actor, talk about critical thinking skills, take this written work of art, break it down, and then find a way to take that and make a character out of it, or make a lighting design or set design out of that, or create the clothes for the character. So definitely it teaches critical thinking. And I don't know a better way to learn about communicating than having to communicate. And think of the multiple ways you have to communicate in the arts. So that's what I would say to a parent is, we know jobs, students that are graduating today in 5 years, there'll be jobs we never thought about. I remember a time, you might, when social media manager wasn't a thing, and boy, now I'm sending a lot of students out, and that's the job they're doing. So I think what we should do is teach students transferable skills and teach them how to learn. And if we do that, we're successful. And I think the arts are really good at doing that.
Yeah, it boggles my mind how many studies in sight, not only from an educational benefit standpoint, we've seen studies about graduation rates are higher if you're engaged in the arts. School attendance is higher, mental health, like all of these things, but yet from a public policy or from a corporate America standpoint, we still are cast aside. Or it's an afterthought, it's an extra.
Yeah.
And I just don't know what it's going to take for the corporate or elected officials or those to see that we're really missing out on innovation. And you touched on that earlier about being innovative. I say you can't be innovative if you're not creative. And if we're not helping to foster that creativity and work on that, how many times do we read books about, we need that downtime, that space in between to have that creative thought process. And that's what the arts do.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see parallels in university settings or when you talk to your colleagues across the country on, again, still somewhat of this lack of realization on this cross-discipline need if we really want to be at the forefront of prosperity and innovation as a country? I know that's like a lot thrown into that.
Wow. And I thought one of the earlier questions would take a whole podcast. This would take a series.
I've got time, Todd.
Well, all I have control over at Miami is a program that I run. I certainly am vocal with my colleagues around the campus with need to teach students to be creative problem solvers. And I think for me, that's sort of the bottom line. And we have it built into our curriculum. They start in the first class, day one, in a class that really looks at their creative confidence. It looks at their role in the arts at Miami and beyond. It asks them to create a project around arts and around exploration in the arts. And that follows through the whole curriculum. So every class we ask them to do that, to be creative problem solvers, and we work on it. We give them tools, we give them mindsets. And I think that's what I can do. And when I was in a meeting earlier today, where we're looking at how do we take what we're doing here in a class called Creativity, Innovation, Design Thinking, and how do we scale it across campus? And it's a project that I've been thinking about and working on for a while. And at a university level, they're seeing that, wow, we really need to be teaching this across disciplines. And it's already taught that way, but on a very small scale. I think at Miami, at least, I think there certainly is movement towards this idea of teaching creative problem solving across disciplines. I saw a presentation today on a group from engineering school, and I was really impressed with the thinking. And it was about writing, but within the writing, I could see the design process that engineers use and the creativity that they're bringing to this project. And I'm encouraged. They've created a couple new classes, and it's kind of centered not directly around design thinking, but certainly around creativity. So that's really, encouraging. So I don't know. I think I'm encouraged at Miami at least, but it's not just a Miami issue, is it? I mean, it's something that kind of cuts across our society.
Yeah, I know of a arts college that has their number one employer of graduates is a bank, a national bank,
Ah,
like one of the top three banks in the country. They cite that for every three engineers they have in the room, they need one
yeah,
creative to take whatever that they're constructing to market. And
yeah,
and then I also say, art isn't an object, it's a mindset. And you talked
yeah,
about that mindset earlier.
yeah. No, it's important. In fact, let me expand because what you said made me think about a feeling I had today. So there was an engineering group presenting that I talked about. There was a gerontology group presenting, a math group, and then an arts group. And I listened to all of them, and all of them were fitting. And I was just thinking about, what's so important here is the arts thinkers in that group are as important as the engineering thinkers, as the math thinkers, as the gerontology thinkers. And I also thought about how much overlap that really exists there, that if we could figure out a way to capitalize on that. But I was just, since we're really focused on the arts here, I thought we need this group of creative thinkers in a room with these STEM disciplines because they just come at the world from a different point of view. And we need the engineering, right? We need math. We need, like, they're talking about this applied math degree that they're creating that to me is like, wow, we need this in the world, right? But the arts aren't an or, they're an and. I think the arts need to be part of that discussion.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm on this relevance or this Renaissance of Relevance campaign. So the arts have a seat at the table because I agree. You talked about silos earlier, and I
Hmm.
think that the only cross section of all industries which are silos is the creative line, where
Yeah.
that's where the arts come from. And so if we can have the arts be at every intersection or creativity at every intersection of industry, I think we would all be um, a lot better off, both from a prosperity, but also from a healthy, strong society.
Yeah,
So,
I think the arts thinking, if we can put a sort of, which we can't, but if we, arts thinking, which creativity is so much a part of, but it's also, our the process we learn of creating a thing, right? If you're in art school, anyone in art school has had to create something from nothing over and over and over again, or something from the means that they had at hand. And that idea of learning process and learning how to think through a problem and solve a problem is applicable to everything.
yeah, I agree. Well, Todd, I really appreciate your time today. Todd Stewart is the program director of the Arts Management, Arts Entrepreneurship at Miami University in Ohio.
Well, thanks, Angela. It's been
Thanks, Todd.
great talking to you today.
Yeah, and we should catch up again for another podcast and elaborate on all of those much bigger
Okay.
topics.
Anytime. Thank you for having
Thanks,
me.
Todd.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm like, how do I